What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Average Bob, and welcome to episode 3 of the Average Bobcast, where we chat all things Giants Nation. And today we're going to be very free agency focused and getting started with the news, because I haven't done a podcast in over a week, so we have a lot to catch up on. But diving into things right off the bat, want to get started talking about this great Darren Waller trade, bringing in tight end Darren Waller from the Raiders. This is a great opportunity for him in the last year of his contract to come to the Giants organization and he is an immediate need, an immediate fill. This is a great step for his career, right? Because when you think about 2019, 2020 for him, he was the cream of the crop from the tight end position in the NFL. He had like back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and he's coming off like a down year, pretty injury ridden, where he didn't play all too much. And he has had a little bit of injuries in the past. But I think with that, this opportunity represents a fresh start for him on a Giants team that is trending in the right direction. So bringing him in along Bellinger, it looks like the Giants are going to do a lot of tight end sets. But I think for Waller specifically, he does fit that more receiving tight end feel or fill. So they'll have him more probably like maybe in the slot sometimes, or behind Bellinger, who probably be lined up at tight end, just to maximize leveraging Waller in play action, which we saw a lot of the Giants do a great job of this year. And if they could get Daniel Bellinger in empty space, can you imagine Darren Waller getting to the second level against some of these linebackers that would be covering him? It's a complete mismatch, and I hope he can really stay as healthy as possible and really showcase that speed and playmaker potential that I know he has. What I also love about this deal is that Waller is coming in his final year of his contract, and similar to what Saquon and DJ had to do last year, they had to play in every game. They had the ball out and put all of that, the stats on paper with 16, 17 games next to it, and, try to get that next contract. And that's where Darren Waller is in his career, because if this doesn't work out for him, he's kind of at a really big crossroads. I'm sure he'll get another opportunity somewhere else. But at this point in his career with the Giants, he can, come and almost be like, a free agent hero for us that, we haven't had in a skill position in quite some time. Per Field Yates, with this trade, the Giants actually converted $9.8 million of his base salary into a signing bonus. So you're seeing Joe Schoen do a great job of converting a lot of this cap space and creating even more cap, right? So that gives us $7.8 million in cap space, so we could go out and sign other guys, which the Giants have done. Another interesting note from Dan Schneider from the NFL. He had a great tweet that said Brian Daboll was the tight end coach with the Patriots as they developed Rob Gronkowski and Martellus Bennett, who was with the Giants, I think, for one season and was pretty successful there. He also turned day 3 picked Austin Knox into a surefire starter, and Mike Kafka worked with Travis Kelce most of his career. And that's great, right? Because the coaches are around building tight ends. That's what we saw start with Daniel Bellinger. And now we're going to build on that for Darren Waller. Or, he's at a point of his career that they're going to figure out ways to use him to the best of his ability, which as a Giants fan, you can't be much happier than that. Next up was an immediate fill for the Giants at middle linebacker. I didn't get a chance to really talk about my full rants from last season, so I'll do that now quickly. But last season, there was a tremendous gap at the middle linebacker position, as we really saw that week in and week out. Micah McFadden and Jalen Smith. Obviously, shout out to Jalen Smith, man. He was someone who played in his final college game at Notre Dame that made no difference, and he ended up destroying his knee, and then the Cowboys used a second-round pick for him. But going into the draft of that year, if he had sat out that game, he was looking like a first-round draft pick, right? So I don't really blame any of these guys, in college when they sit out those kind of bowl games that don't really make as much sense anymore. So, and Jalen Smith did have a pretty solid professional career, right? I think that's probably why the Cowboys cut bait with him, and he came to the Giants as a free agent. Kind of off the scrap heap because he was obviously trending in that wrong direction. But, the Giants didn't have anyone else to really fill those needs after Tay Crowder was being a little baby on Twitter saying like, free me, and they cut him, then ended up bringing him back. And then I still just don't understand why, there was the breakup with Blake Martinez, who was good his first year as a Giant, and then obviously towards ACL that second year. and then they kind of cut bait with him when he did come back. I'll talk about Blake Martinez at the end, so stay tuned for that, because he's having flourishing in his post NFL life, which obviously I love to see, especially at a middle linebacker where you're getting hit pretty much every single play and you're doing a lot of damage to your brain. So we'll touch on Blake Martinez towards the end. But touching on linebackers and free agency, what the Giants have dove into now was signing free agent Bobby Okereke from the Colts. This is a great deal. It's about 4 years, and he'll be the face of our defense moving forward. And he's had a successful career so far, and he's kind of entering his prime. We did see him. Giants fans might not have realized it because we beat the crap out of the Colts last year. But in that game, Bobby Okereke did strip Darius Slayton for a nice fumble. So having some more solidification in the middle linebacker position is an immediate fill. It's an immediate need, and it makes our defense better. So that's what we really needed. I'm so interested to see what this guy could do going into the season, and I'm glad he's going to be in here. He'll have a full offseason. And what's great about him, per Doug Rush, Bobby Okereke told his agent that he wanted to be playing in New York because the franchise is on the rise. And, again, like I said about Waller, like, this is music to my ears. It makes me happy. It makes me proud again, to be a team that people want to come to and play for and really be a part of the turning around of the culture and the franchise and getting back to Giants glory, which I know we've all been waiting for. Also touching on free agency, the Giants did re-sign Jihad Ward, who had a pretty solid season last year. He's one of the scariest guys when you watch play. He's just so big and strong. He had 43 tackles last season and 3 sacks, but on top of that, he's a Wink Martindale favorite and a locker room favorite as well. And there were so many funny pictures of him giving a double middle finger, yelling at the crowd, yelling at cameras and stuff, getting all pumped up on the sideline. So glad to bring him back, and even if he isn't, I don't know, it's a no-brainer move, right? He had a good year, bring him back and see what happens. Maybe he'll get better, or if not, it is what it is. Maybe we'll bring someone in who could actually beat him out. So leading to that, in terms of bringing in guys and having people being beat out, one of the other moves that have filled immediate needs for the New York Giants has been at the wide receiver position. I touched on that on my podcast a week or two ago. Where the Giants also brought in another Colt in Parris Campbell. And Parris Campbell was coming off one of his best seasons with the Colts. Obviously, the Colts weren't very good last year. But again, I think, what you see bringing in a guy like Parris Campbell, and I'll touch on a couple others after this, but I just love that it creates and fosters competition, especially in a wide receiver room that was already so thin. And we were playing a lot of practice squad guys that you probably might not see again. When comes around camp and, actually building this team. And guys get hurt too, especially a wide receiver. They bang up their hamstring, their knees, their feet. Look at guys like, Kenny Golladay could barely even practice, like Tony too. So it's good to have some depth with some veteran free agents, and especially Parris Campbell seems to be on the younger side of things. And he actually was on the record as stating that Daniel Jones reached out to him, and he was actually out in Arizona training, and he's like, I got to get out there, Arizona, let's get to work. And, Parris Campbell's pumped about that. As you can see here, he said, that's what you want. You're a new guy coming in. The quarterback's already like, let's go, let's get some work together. And that's welcoming. It's promising. It's rebuilding a culture, right? This is why you paid Daniel Jones. Now he's stepping up after getting paid more into a leadership position, and his leadership is not through anything. It's not talking. It's about his actions and what he wants to do, which is great to see. Another talking about injuries and why you need to stock up on wide receivers because guys go down. Sterling Shepard also coming back on a 1-year deal. Longtime Giant. You kind of saw the writing on the wall with that once he got hurt. He had a lot of it. They just had to rework it from a cap perspective and lower that total number and bring him back. Probably give him some other stuff. Obviously, Sterling Shepard is an interesting guy. He's always a locker room favorite. He is the longest tenured Giant at this point, which is kind of crazy to believe. I think he's 30 years old now, which is also crazy because I feel like he'll always be young Shep to me. But he did have a great start to last season, making plays in that Titans game early on. And it just sucks for a guy like him because he's just tore his Achilles, tore his ACL. And when you start doing that as a 30-year-old wide receiver, time, age, everything is against you. So I'm glad that they did bring him back at some capacity, because it seems like the team and his teammates do love him. So maybe this isn't more of like he'll be able to play again. I hope he can. But like Giants fans of guys we loved, like Victor Cruz, right? Like once he started tearing his knees, like it was kind of the end of the road for him. And he's still around. You see him all the time, right? Doing Giants stuff. So maybe Sterling will come back in, a front office or wide receiver position coaching job, which would be great. Also, the Giants did re-sign Darius Slayton, who is somehow, one of the top free agents for wide receiver position this year. Obviously, I think most Giants fans have a love-hate relationship, but with Darius Slayton, as he has a lot of big moments. He also has a lot of bad moments. But I think, again, I was hoping Darius Slayton would step up a little bit more last year, and you do see glimpses from him. But I think what is great about this opportunity is now we've brought in other free agent wide receivers. Going to up next on the list is Jamison Crowder, who's bumped around a couple different teams the last few years. And again, a veteran free agent got to come in and create more competition, right? So you're going to have Jamison Crowder in the mix, Parris Campbell in the mix. You're getting Wandell coming back off an injury. Sterling Shepard probably not going to be able to make it back for quite some time, but he'll be there. And Darius Slayton, he's not like a sort of guaranteed, really lock or position, because you also have Hodgins too. And maybe the Giants take a shot at wide receiver as well to see if they can, throw a dart at the dartboard and hit bullseye on one of these younger free agent or in the draft for one of these young wide receivers. So, hey, competition breeds the best out of everyone. I'm glad the Giants have made these moves and bringing in some of these veteran guys to, help foster that competition and let the cream rise to the top. And also talking about injured wide receivers, on March 15th, the Giants parted ways, releasing Kenny Golladay. And with that, they will save $6.7 million per Adam Schefter, which is absolutely great to see there. I mean, I don't even know where to get started talking about Kenny Golladay. I feel like I talked about it, so long the entire last season that I don't even know if it's worth mentioning anymore. But yeah, maybe I'll get another shot somewhere else at a league minimum and see, or maybe he's happy he got paid so much from Dave Gettleman that he's like, whatever, I could ride into the sunset and maybe do something like Blake Martinez is doing. And one of the final Giants re-signings is, of course, the punter, the Scottish Hammer, Shane Gillan, with a 2-year, $4 million extension worth up to $5 million in incentives. As I was just ranting about Kenny Golladay, right? Scottish Hammer was another guy who was constantly at the forefront of people that throughout the season, as the season progressed, was guys that I didn't want to see come back. So to me, it was a little bit of a head scratcher from the Giants front office, but it is what it is. Maybe he gets better. Maybe he learns a little bit more of the fundamentals. We have Jeff Fiegels, one of the greatest Giants punters of all time, still in the building. I think he does like radio or something along those lines for the Giants. Why isn't Jeff Fiegels sitting down with Jamie Gillan, and I almost said Shane Gillis, one of my favorite comedians, Jamie Gillan, and being like, hey, man, this is the definition of a coffin corner. Maybe when we're punting, on our own 30, let's not skyrocket to the middle of the field and allow for returns or punt it out of bounds 30 yards. So I think Jamie Gillan has a ton of work to do to make me a fan of his. But that will take time, and maybe, and that's what you could see, right? Guys that have had down years can bounce back, and we're gonna need a good punter. So hopefully obviously the Giants front office liked him enough to re-sign him, and maybe didn't like what they saw out there from a free agency perspective. So hey, maybe bringing him back is the best move that they thought. Next up, super random, as you could see here, my guy Evan Neal, all pumped up about changing his stance. I'm not sure, it's one step, right? But how excited do you get from one guy changing his stance in March with no pads on and no one rushing him? Hey, but you know what? It's fundamentals. It's something that he's working on and it's showing that he cares and wants to do this as a professional in the NFL, which is absolutely great and music to my ear. So I'm Evan Neal, you got a free pass this year. I think you did some great things. You also messed up your knee, same as Kayvon, so with the MCL. But hey, let's see. You got to get healed up, 100% back, full off season, and you're looking at a guy who played football at Alabama, right? He's not afraid of the intense off season, and it's only ratcheted up a little bit further. He'll get his diet, nutrition, strength, and all of that great stuff figured out this off season. So I would love nothing more than to have two bookend tackles in Andrew Thomas, who did take some time to get brought up to speed to and to become an elite offensive tackle. But Evan Neal's yet to be seen. Hopefully we'll see it more this year. But hey, I'll still, give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit. And last but not least on today's podcast, I did want to chat about Blake Martinez, who, I thought the Giants should have kept him around because of how desperate we were at the middle linebacker position. But it's hard to see why he might have been more willing to step away from the game. I believe he played a couple games for the Raiders as they've signed him as a free agent and then was kind of done after that. But he made this after he left the Raiders in the middle of the season, he really ventured out into a hobby that he became very profitable, and that is card collecting. And what Blake Martinez is really into is Pokemon cards. It's so funny because when we think about when we were all kids, right? Like who didn't have a binder of Pokemon cards, right? Or I'm not even sure of the audience that I'm really talking to right now, but I had that, right? And even going through it, it's still in my parents' house. I'll look through it. It's still there. You'll find like a holographic Charizard. I'll have to go on eBay and be like, is this worth anything? It's first edition. And it's funny because, most of it's crap and not worth anything. But good on Blake Martinez for building his little hobby into a $5 million book of business where he's actually hiring people and kind of has, a small business on top of it. So that's great to see someone do that's younger in their career instead of retiring, and where you see a lot of guys retire and they're like, what's my purpose in life now? Like, what am I going to do? I've only known football. My whole identity is being a football player. What is my next step? What do I do? And it's great to see a guy like Blake Martinez who did take damage to his brain and also his other body, like his ACL and stuff. So it's great to see him bounce back and do something that he could do for the rest of his life, make money doing, and it's at no more risk to his personal health, which is really what all you can ask for at the end of the day, and to have that purpose as well. And also, in this economy, to give jobs to people too, that is also their passion and hobby, right? Because people wake up, they go to work every single day and they hate their job. But could you imagine if you loved Pokemon cards more than anyone in the world and you get to make money doing that? Isn't that the dream at the end of the day? So with that, thank you guys for watching episode 3. Hope to talk to you guys soon with some more free agent updates. Probably do a little bit more draft centric in the next podcast, as we are entering that fun time of the year where you got those 3 days in April where a lot of dreams are made and lost. And looking forward to it. So thank you guys again for watching. Have a great rest of your Sunday and a great week coming up. Average Bob out.